I'm about to break up with my wife. I'm about to end this relationship, and it is very scary.
Wait a minute, is this really happening, Rob? Do me a favour, please don't get my hopes up if you don't really mean it. Like, we all know Rob and Sophie aren't meant to be together in exactly the same way as deep down we all know Gino and Jasmine aren't meant to be together either.
It's just too much fighting, and I've lost my desire. She's like getting uglier to me by the day with all this fighting.
Oh boy. Pro tip, Gino. Whatever you do, don't tell her she's getting uglier right before her pageant show. At least not if you want to live. So before we get to Rob and Sophie, Emily and Kobe, let's start this recap with the one and only Gino and Jasmine. So today is the parade of costumes for Jasmine's pageant. But the thing is, Jasmine's yet to get her head back in the game after her fight last night with Gino. The fight where she told him not to come to her rehearsals anymore. He was being too negative.
I don't care about anything or anyone. I need to stop thinking about the fight. I have to focus on the pageant because it would be nice if I win the crown.
Gino reveals he's hurt by Jasmine's revelation. He's hurt that she doesn't want his advice. And while he still thinks that she looks stiff, she has bad posture on stage, at least he seems to have learnt his lesson. He's biting his tongue. Now, after the interview portion of the pageant, where Jasmine's on stage being quizzed by the judges, where Jasmine actually admits that since coming to America, she's been questioning her identity, she's lost part of her identity, the couple then go back to their hotel room. And even though Jasmine's exhausted, she tells Gino she wants to talk about their fight. It's been bugging me all day, she says.
I feel like to move forward, I need to talk about it.
And it's at that point that Gino agrees, and he immediately butts in with,
I feel like that you owe me an apology for all the things that you said to me.
Now, Jasmine's in absolute disbelief, but Gino defends himself. He's clearly in one of his stubborn moods, and by darn it, if he deserves an apology from Jasmine, he wants one right now. He's not gonna rest until he gets one. But the thing is, right now, Jasmine isn't in a giving mood. She feels like she has nothing to apologise for. I mean, after all, it was Gino who went out of his way to point out all of her flaws. It's his critique that's made her feel ugly, made her feel the entire time that they've been here in Miami.
Why am I here? Have depression? I have alopecia? I am homesick? And you reject me as a woman every time you have an opportunity.
Gino seriously seems to think that Jasmine owes him an apology for not letting him come to the rehearsals. Why? Well, because he paid for and organised this trip. He feels it's his right. He should be able to go anywhere and give any feedback he wants. But it's at this point that Jasmine reveals to Gino that this entire pageant experience has all been a desperate attempt by her to try and get his attention. This has all been done so that I can feel some kind of attraction from you, she tells him.
You know how much that hurts me and messes up with my mind. And sex is not validation, but damn, I love you.
For the life of her, Jasmine can't understand why, if Gino supposedly loves her, then why doesn't he want to be intimate with me, she asks. Like, she desperately searches for reasons. She blames his odd sexual preferences. But for what must be the 1000th time, Gino reminds her that their sex life has been totally ruined. It's non-existent because Jasmine constantly gets angry with him. Our lack of sex is on you, he tells her.
It's just too much fighting, and I've lost my desire. She's like getting uglier to me by the day with all this fighting.
Yeah, that's a big, big revelation. She's getting uglier to me by the day, he says. Now, thankfully, he says that privately to the camera crew. Like, I think telling Jasmine she's getting ugly right before she has another pageant show tomorrow morning would have caused absolute bedlam. But as carefully chosen as those private words were, unfortunately, what he says next to Jasmine doesn't go unnoticed.
You should have never married me. You should have never brought me here.
Well, I had hoped that things would change. I did love you.
Wow, look at Jasmine's reaction there. She definitely caught that. Now, was it a slip of the tongue? Did Gino refer to their love in the past tense by mistake? Or does he really mean that? I did love you is very, very different from I love you. I think it's been very clear for a while now that Gino is falling out of love, if he hasn't already done so. Now, remarkably, Jasmine doesn't pull him up on this, at least not right now. While she definitely noticed what Gino said, it seems she doesn't want to broach this huge topic right now. So instead, she gives Gino an ultimatum. Either we start to have more sex, or I'm not gonna stay married to you, she says.
I don't see you trying to fix what I'm telling you the problem.
Just fix your head and your You're the one who has to fix it.
You're not talking about the root cause of the problem here.
If you can't see that that's not the root cause of our problems, if you can't see that sex won't solve all of our marital issues, says Gino, then
We are...
Now, unfortunately, Jasmine doesn't seem to acknowledge or understand what Gino's trying to say, which is that not fighting will fix their sex life. But equally, that goes both ways. Gino seems reluctant to understand what Jasmine's trying to say. She wants him to understand that sex is important for her. She needs it. It's a requirement in order for her to feel loved, to feel attracted and valued.
You know how much that hurt me every day of my life, like my husband doesn't make love to me.
Yeah, I think we can all see that this marriage teeters on the brink of destruction. And another couple who are also in a similarly precarious situation is Sophie and Rob. When we join them in this episode, the pair of them are each at a club celebrating Rob's birthday separately.
I am anxious about what Rob is doing, and like I'm not bothering him because I don't want to be controlling and be like, call me, you know? Look, if he was here, it'd be okay.
Obviously, Sophie's concerned. I mean, Rob's track record of staying faithful isn't exactly great, is it? Now, she says even though they're going through stuff, they are married. She hopes that her husband will be faithful. But doesn't that say everything you need to know? The trust seems to be gone. She's hoping he'll be faithful, but she really isn't sure. Like, the truth is, at this point, why are these two still married? Why is Sophie still obsessed with trying to work things out with Rob? Like, literally no one seems to get it. Especially her best friend, Kay.
Honestly, I'm like every night praying to the Lord that they break up. If I could have the perfect world, Rob would be out the and it'd be me and Sophie forever.
Now, Kay goes on to say that Sophie is the other half of her soul. What? Yeah, I mean, that's a bit full on, isn't it?
I'd marry her, I'd do whatever I need. Like, that's my bitch.
At the risk of sounding like Rob, I'm sorry, but with talk like that, it's very difficult to know how friendshipy this friendship really is. Seriously, are lines being blurred? Is there something else going on here? Because that sounds more like a declaration of undying love, and not really in the friendship kind of sense. Now, as for Rob, as we saw in the last episode, he's out having a good time in Kansas. And it seems like Sophie has every right to be concerned, because Rob's clearly caught the attention of a very, very persistent lady.
I'm still not trying to... Hola.
Can I have your number?
You have my number?
Can I have your number?
Rob Rob's friends encourage him to go for it, which is crazy advice considering he's married. But it doesn't help that Rob himself is out there complaining about how he hasn't had sex in a very long time. In fact, his exact words are...
I could scratch that itch.
Yeah, I mean, wow. Things are really, really bad in Rob and Sophie's relationship when it's got to the point where Rob's on TV openly talking about potentially having sex with someone else. But as he's deep in thought contemplating his next move, Rob gets an unexpected call from his wife.
Happy birthday.
I appreciate that, thank you. But yeah, I'll talk to you later, okay?
Okay, fine.
Now, before hanging up, Sophie tells her husband that she loves him, and it's important to point out that he says it back.
I love you.
I love you too.
Yeah, I mean, they're married, right? It's a normal thing that married couples say. But, and here's the absolutely insane part. After the call ends, Rob now decides that Sophie's being manipulative. He thinks Sophie told him she loves him out of fear that she's losing him. However, I think the truth is far more alcohol-based. I think Sophie's just drunk.
I know for Rob, there's no one better than me. I understand him. I know I slag him off a lot of times, but I understand how Rob works. No other bitch understands that.
Look, if Rob thinks that Sophie's actions prove that she doesn't love him, what about his own actions? What do they prove, Rob? And it's very interesting to see that even after his friends leave, Rob wanders back into the club without the camera crew. Now, does that prove he's cheated? Well, no, we don't have any proof. We don't know that for sure. But the next time we join him back in Austin, it's immediately clear he's been doing some soul searching, and the answers he's found don't look good for his marriage.
I just feel like I can't do it anymore. And I just cannot get anywhere with her.
Rob feels like he can't progress with Sophie. She's always saying that she needs time. But I've given her time, he says. And while I'm definitely not Rob's biggest fan, the truth is, on this matter, he's right. Sophie's just prolonging the inevitable. I don't doubt that she loves him, but I think we can all also see that for both of their sakes, this relationship just needs to end.
Like, she's trying to pull this cloak over my eyes and just keep pulling me along. It's like I'm so confused.
Sophie's motivation, the reason why she stays with Rob, is confusing. I don't blame Rob for not understanding what it is that she wants. The truth is, I don't even think that Sophie herself knows. Now, Rob goes on to say that he doesn't understand why Sophie told him that she loved him on that phone call. And with that, I think the writing is well and truly on the wall. I mean, I've heard a lot of things before, but using your wife telling you that she loves you as a justification and a motive for ending things kind of tells you everything you need to know. He's clutching at straws. He's just looking for any reason to call it a day.
The last thing I wanted was for this to not work out. But I did everything I could.
Did you, Rob? Did you really? I mean, what did you do to try and fix things? Other than write a shitty poem and stick a ring in a block of cheese. Rob says he tried to fix things, but he never really put in the work. He never did what Sophie asked of him, did he? He just wanted Sophie to forgive and forget, to forgive him and move on. But it was never going to be that easy. And now it sounds like Rob has made a final decision.
I've never really done this before. I never really had to let go of somebody that I cared about so much.
He sends Sophie a very passive-aggressive, very victim mentality text message, telling her that if she's ever valued him at all, then they need to meet today. But my question here is, what's changed? Why's he only now come to that conclusion? What's happened since he last saw her? I don't doubt that he's felt this way for a while, but something tells me something might have happened at that club that's caused him to reevaluate. Either way, we join him later that afternoon as he heads to Kay's house to wait for Sophie to come outside.
You know, I'm about to break up with my wife. I'm about to end this relationship, and it is very scary.
Isn't it wild, right? Isn't it wild that Rob is the one that's ending things? Like, let's not forget, Sophie's not perfect, far from it, but Rob's the one who's in the wrong. Rob's the one that manipulates, gaslights, and treats Sophie like shit. It's crazy that Sophie has given him the power to decide when and if it's over. But Rob wants us to believe that he's been pushed to this. This is Sophie's fault for not being able to communicate properly, he tells us.
You know, Sophie and I have been teetering on this breakup for a while, but she's not gonna call me. She's not gonna volunteer to talk about this stuff.
If Rob actually goes through with this, then I, for one, will actually like him so much more. It really would be the best for both of them, but it remains to be seen if he actually pulls the trigger. Now, as we leave one of the worst marriages on this show, let's check in with one of the stronger ones. The last we saw Kobe and Emily, they were saying goodbye to Kobe's family. And when we join them in this episode as they're packing their suitcases, Kobe drops a bombshell on Emily.
I was like, maybe we can live here for a while. I mean, it's easier with the money we have saved. We can even rent, we can even build if we want to build a house.
Kobe says he's been thinking about this for a while. He's been wondering whether or not it would be the right thing for all of them to relocate to Cameroon. My family are here, he says. My kids would understand and experience my culture. And plus, life in America is expensive. Let's not forget that the two of them still live in Emily's parents' basement. Yeah, that can't be ideal, what with their growing family. But what does Emily have to say about his suggestion?
I love that Kobe wants us to move here to have our kids like be around the culture and his family. Like, I love all of that, but at the same time, they're very small children.
Emily thinks that her kids are too young to retain and remember any life-changing experiences that would come about from living in Cameroon right now. Her suggestion is to wait. Wait till the kids are a bit older, maybe 6 or 7. And while she's probably right, I think a large part of that is her desperately trying to kick the bucket, kick the can down the road. She's trying to buy time, and that response seems to really disappoint Kobe.
You're springing this on me, and right now, my answer's no.
So you make all the decisions now in a marriage?
Let's say.
Kobe, why does there need to be an answer right away? Like, this is such a big thing, such a big decision, that surely both of you need a bit more time to simmer over it first before saying yes or no. Kobe seems to be in a very emotional state, and I think the truth is that probably has more to do with the fact that he's just had to say goodbye to his family. He doesn't know when he'll see them again. But one thing you can be sure about is this won't be the end of this conversation.
I know it's a big move and a big change, but one thing for sure I know is that we are going to talk about it extensively because it's something that I'm not backing down on.
And that's absolutely fair. I mean, if it really is something that Kobe's very, very passionate about, he shouldn't have to back down. At the very least, they should have a conversation about it. Come to an agreement together, the pair of them, one way or the other. Like, Kobe's motivation for the move, right, is genuinely lovely. He wants his kids, his half Cameroonian kids, to know and appreciate, to understand where he's from, where their ancestors are from. You can't fault that reasoning, right? It makes absolute sense. But at the same time, what he seems to not appreciate right now is that timing is everything. What good would it do if his kids live in Cameroon for a year or two, but forget it all? Now, as they make their way to the airport, Emily decides that now's the right time to fill her parents in on Kobe's big idea. And as expected, her parents are shocked. You see, it's not the emotional or the cultural side of things that they have the issue with. They're much more concerned with the practicalities, the day-to-day of how their life would be.
What would you do to make money while you're here for 1 or 2 years?
Of course, I will make money. I cannot sit. I cannot bring my family and just sit down.
What would you do?
I got businesses I can do.
Yeah, Kobe, my man, I think you need to put a little bit more thought into this whole idea. Sorry, but your mysterious business doesn't exactly inspire confidence, does it? Now, understandably, neither Emily or her parents are convinced by this idea. But, as I said earlier, a decision of this magnitude isn't going to happen instantly. It's going to take time. And much to her credit, that's what Emily's mum tells them. She doesn't object. She doesn't say, "No, I don't want you to go." She tells them to really think things through.
I think we need to table the conversation, and you guys need to sit down and make a plan.
Now, sadly, Kobe interprets this as no. He thinks everyone's objecting to his idea, but that isn't actually true. The advice he's been given is fair. It's good advice. And it's very interesting to note that the episode ends with Emily actually admitting that Kobe has sacrificed a lot to be with her. The least that she can do, she says, is to keep an open mind about his idea. So maybe, just maybe, this is something to keep an eye on. It sounds like there might actually be a real possibility of it happening.
Kobe really did leave everything behind just to come be with me, and he's done a lot and he's sacrificed a lot. I'm not saying no to moving, but we really need to get back to America and really talk it out.